accessed by your senses or your mind and all that. So, bitter gourd you would like, so if it is part of your menu, that day's meal is spoiled, even though there are other good things. They have made a park which I don't like, so I don't like the food. This sort of so much dependence on external objects, either for your like or dislike. So, where a person who is generally happy with himself, for him, these things will not really matter. Even if suppose a person, even though he is a jnani, he does not like bitter gourd normally. So, but if it is served, he won't make it make such a big issue because he is basically a happy person. He will not be totally dependent. And okay, he will not have that bitter gourd. He will have other things, and at the end of the lunch, he will come away saying that I am happy. Okay, I had something which I didn't like. I didn't take it. That's it. He will not make a big issue of it because for him, basically, he is a happy person. So everything is light. He takes it lightly, plus or minus. He doesn't jump on something good, doesn't get depressed on something bad. Whereas for a person who is not Atma Sukham, meaning a person who is not taken that Atma, my Swarupa being Atma, that part of it, that understanding is yet to sink in. He is okay, he is studying Gita, he is attending and all that, but still he is yet to take charge of himself, saying that I am basically an Atma and I am playing my roles. If that is not there also, but he is interested, how he will look at it? He will look at it as a sadhana. He will as a relatively, he will try to go about his life, he will sort of faking it and making it. In the sense, he will ensure even if there are something desirable or undesirable happening around, he will keep on being alert, saying that no, I should not get elated or get depressed. As a yoga means sadhana, it is an effort. By effort, by attitude, he will develop a certain distance from the roles he plays, a space he will discover. That also is a good thing in the sense that at the end of the day, he will also come away relatively free of the hold of raga and dvesha. And he will be able to study. And slowly he will gain the understanding that Atma. In the sense, both yoga and jnani. A person who is a yogi, a person who is for a jnani, a person it is spontaneous. For a yogi, it needs some effort in his day-to-day life. That is the difference, only difference between a yogi and a jnani. And Bhakyan Sparshan meaning all objects and activities which you are involved. Because basically what we are doing in our life, all our whole life, whole day is spent on Bhagyan Sparshan. All objects and activities are external to our body, mind, senses, with which we are dealing with. And naturally there will be always some plus and minus. Whether it is a mental activity or a physical activity or eating or whatever, all Laukika, Vaidika, professional, personal, all are referred to in the word Bhakyan Sparshan. That is why in later also it will come Bhakyan Sparshan Bahikritva, meaning in meditation, the whole thing, mentally, physically, whatever you are involved, just keep them away, suspend them for the time being in meditation. So Bhakyan Sparshan is a catch statement by Bhagavan in terms of all our activities and objects. That's how it is. Yeah.
Now what happens if the same person, the Bahya Sarsheshu Asakta Atma, becomes a Brahma Yoga Yukta Atma? By withdrawing from the hold of Raga Dveshas, the person definitely gains some sukha. But when this same person becomes one with Brahman, when the person's mind is alive to the knowledge of Brahman, what sukha will the person gain? Such a person gains a sukha that does not wax or wane, the sukha that is the swarupa of oneself. We see in all of this an order. For one whose mind is not attached to external objects, there is some sukha, not because of the objects, but because of the cheerfulness of the mind. This is due to Antakarana Shuddhi, and if such a person becomes a Brahma Yoga Yukta Atma, the sukha gained will be one's very nature, limitless and eternal. Over to you, Appa.
The significance of context. Thus, this verse can also be seen as reflecting this order. If Shankara were here, I think he would agree with this latter interpretation, given that it holds with what was said before, and what was said later. Whenever you interpret what is said differently from Shankara's interpretation, you must see that it is contextually proper. Otherwise, anyone who knows what it is all about can easily prove you wrong. If, however, having understood the context properly, you are able to see another meaning, one that does not go against anything that is said and fits better into the context, you can present it and the tradition will accept it. Shankara himself often views a verse in 2 or 3 different ways, a practice the tradition allows, provided, of course, it facilitates understanding without hurting what the Shastra says grammatically, contextually, and logically. Because the tradition thoroughly analyzes the Shastra before giving its meaning, presenting any other meaning requires the utmost care and consideration in terms of what has been said before and what is said later. We shall see how this latter interpretation is upheld as we proceed.
Yeah, what he is trying to say is, in the sense Shankara's Bhashya for this particular verse is entirely with reference to a jnani. Okay, whereas here he has said, even if a karma yogi approaches this Bhakyans Parshan, the objects and activities, with an attitude of karma yoga, that will bring in some antakarana shuddhi, a stability, wherein he will still be able to take it as Ishwararpanam and Prasada Buddhi, and that is karma yoga, and still carry on with his composure. Whereas for a jnani, it is natural. He doesn't have to make an effort. So, the second line, Brahma Yoga Yukta Atma, is for the jnani, and since the context of this verse is the whole, this 20 to 30, the verse, the ending of this 5th chapter is explaining the Nitya Sannyasi or a jnani. So, Shankara's Bhashyam says entirely about the jnani, whereas Swamiji has explained that it can even bring in, even if you have an attitude of karma yoga, it can bring in antakarana shuddhi. Still, that will be a sadhana for you. Still, you will be able to retain your composure. That will help you in study. So that way he explains. But he says it is not against what Shankara's interpretation of the verse. That's what he is saying. Yeah.
Verse 22, enjoyments or potential causes for sorrow. Tehi samsasya bhoga dukkayonaya evate adyantabanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. Kaunteya, O son of Kunti, because those which samsasyajaha are born of contact between sense organs and desirable objects, bhogaha, enjoyments, they dukkha yonayaha eva, are the sources of pain alone, adi antavanta, and they have a beginning and an end, buddhaha, the wise person, teshu, in them, na ramate, does not revel. Because those enjoyments that are born of contact between the sense organs and desirable objects are the sources of pain alone and have a beginning and an end, Kaunteya Arjuna, the wise person does not revel in them. Both the Bahya Sparsheshu Asakta Atma and the Brahma Yoga Yukta Atma of the previous verse are again commented upon here. The objects contacted by the sense organs are called samsparshas, sparsha meaning contact, as we have seen. Between the indriyas, sense organs, and the ishta desirable objects, there is contact, and because of that contact, there is sukha, called bhoga here, meaning enjoyment, a pleasant experience. These pleasant experiences are born out of sensory contact with the desirable sense objects, samsparshajaha bhogaha. Krishna also says here that these enjoyments are the potential causes for sorrow, dukkha yonayaha. Yonayaha. Yoni means womb. Therefore, enjoyments or pleasant experience born of the contact between sense organs and desirable objects are the wombs or potential causes for dukkha. They are sources of sorrow. Why? Because even before gaining these pleasant experiences, there is dukkha in that you have to work for them until you get them.
Actually, Swamiji used to give a very beautiful example for this. In the sense, He used to give a example of a faluda. Faluda, a person is generally not a very rich, very affordable person. He goes to a good restaurant and after maybe once a month only he goes to that restaurant. Otherwise he has simple food and all that. He doesn't have idli, sambar, whatever, and all the regular going on. Whereas one day he decided at the end of the month he had enough cash in his hand, a bachelor. He decided to go to the restaurant, have a good meal, and he is having his faluda as a dessert. So with that it is going to end. So he has got the faluda in a big glass and all that. He is looking at it and he is happy that his glass is full. So once he has a sip, he enjoyed that sip, but the level has come down. So as he enjoys more and more, he finds that the level is coming down. He is feeling sad. He is not even able to enjoy that particular whatever is having because it is coming down. He says all our pleasures are like that only. You pay through your nose, enjoy the pleasure, and because of the payment you feel the loss. So always gain and loss is always coming together in life. So there is no really, at the end of the day, there is no real gain, there is no real loss. What you gain, you have to pay for by way of a loss. That you find it. So he used to give a very graphically, he was a very good storyteller. He's a very good storyteller in a big audience. He will capture the mind of the people in such a way that it will remain with you at the end of till the end of your life. So that is a very good way of teaching. He used to do that very well. I got reminded of that. That's why I was telling. Okay, yeah.
To bring a desirable object or pleasant experience into alignment with the sense organs is not an easy thing. If you want to see an object that is away from you, you either have to take yourself to the object or bring the object to you. If it is a mountain, you have to go to that mountain. If it is something else, you may be able to bring it to yourself. Either way, you have to work for coming into contact with it. You either have to come in contact with the object or it has to come in contact with you. This contact has to take place, which itself implies a lot of effort on your part. And this is only the beginning. When the contact takes place, it must be proper. It must be desirable. The sight of a favorite dish may make you happy, but if when you put it on your tongue, it is too hot, there is a problem. The sight of it was one contact, which was desirable, and the contact the food made with your tongue was another, which was undesirable. Thus, to ensure that the contact is proper and desirable is not always easy. Desirable experiences cannot last. How long the desirable contact can last is another problem. The process of experiencing an object itself may exhaust the object and then you will miss the contact. Or you yourself may become tired and therefore unable to continue the contact. The attitude or the mood to enjoy always also goes away and again you lose the contact. Whether due to change of mood, the sense organs becoming tired or the object no longer being available, you always find that this kind of happiness is only temporary, if not momentary. And when it goes, it leaves you high and dry. It leaves you unhappy. We see that before gaining enjoyments, there is dukkha. And after you get them, you spend your time thinking, I'm going to lose this happiness. Finally,
one minute. Somebody is calling. Just a minute.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And after you get them, you spend your time thinking, I'm going to lose this happiness. Finally, when they are over, there is more dukkha. Again, you have to work for them. Enjoyments are dukkha yonis, sources of sorrow, because they have a beginning, adi, and an end, anta. They are called adi antavanta in this verse. A desirable contact is the beginning. The end is when the desirable contact is no longer available. It means that these bhogas are anitya, not lasting. They are non-eternal. The person who understands the limited nature of such enjoyments is called Buddha in this verse. Buddha means Viveki. Buddha can be taken either to mean a discriminative person or a wise person. In his commentary on this verse, Shankara defines Buddha in the latter sense, one who understands the real nature, the truth of oneself, avagata paramartha tattvaha. Since a Viveki understands the limitations of ordinary happiness, he or she goes after Akshaya Sukha, the happiness that does not wane, which is why the person was called Bahya Spasheshu Asakta Atma, one who is not carried away by the mind's fancies for external objects. Because of the person's discrimination, he or she becomes Bahya Spasheshu Asakta Atma. Enjoying a natural cheerfulness, this person, the Karma Yogi, goes about doing only what is to be done, not bound by anything. The Karma Yogi may enjoy certain objects, but he or she is not bothered by any of them. This Karma Yogi, on becoming a Brahma Yoga Yukta Atma, one who is endowed with the knowledge of Atma as Brahman, gains the happiness that does not wane, giving oneself to one's desires. In his introduction to the next verse, Shankara points out that desire or longing for enjoyments is opposed to serious inquiry into oneself, an inquiry that requires certain maturity. A person who wants to understand Atma, Brahman, the ultimate, and who at the same time wants to go to discourse will have no time for such an inquiry. First, the mind of such a person has to be fixed up, but one will not have any time for that either. The person is acting out of the likes and dislikes in his or her mind and not dealing with them directly. Only when you begin to deal with your likes and dislikes do you become a serious person, an inquirer, and a seeker. You may have 100 problems, but as long as you are ready to deal with them, there is no problem at all. The person who deals with his or her problems already has certain maturity, and the problems of such a person will resolve in time. But for the person who is given to the problems themselves, where is the chance for him or her to deal with them? Giving oneself to one's desires is a real problem, and as Shankara says, is opposed to the pursuit of liberation, moksha, kama, sreyo marga, pratipakshi. This problem is one that is the most difficult to deal with.
Basically a lifestyle issue. In the sense, as I have been always telling, you must have a lifestyle that is conducive to study, which helps you to have that space inside, so that you are not like simple living, high thinking of the olden days. Like activities, you should not have too many irons in the fire, too many busy activities. No, initially we are when we are not used to all these things, we like to load our day with full of activities. Otherwise, you feel that you are not being useful. But as you grow in life, once you have that, you want to gain that inner leisure for pursuing this sort of a study and understanding, introspection and all that, you must be able to change your lifestyle in such a way that you are not totally tied up in one activity after another in the day. In the sense, you must reduce certain activities and make space for yourself, and whatever you do with a certain detached, like in the sense, like what he is mentioning. Don't have too much, don't lose your heart to that. Like what I have been always telling, that agraha, avesha, abhinivesha should not be there. You should not have been clinging to either desirable or undesirable things. Either way, okay, whatever happens, happens. My goal at the end of the day is to have a peaceful time for myself to study and introspect and meditate and all that. So through the day, just put effort, whatever required to be done, you do it and find space. So that sort of the living he is talking about. In the sense, unless you have got a attitude for leading your life that way, you can't have the cake and eat it. You can't have a very busy day and will be introspecting. It's not doesn't happen. In the sense, you have to reduce your, you have to make your lifestyle in such a way that suits introspection. That is what he is trying to say. Yeah.
Shankara continues, being controlled by karma's desires is considered to be the most difficult problem because it becomes the cause for that which you do not want, dukkha in all of its many forms. For example, if you lose your health due to overindulgence of certain desires, you will also lose your money and a variety of other things in the process. Or, losing your money, you may lose your health. And these karmas in the form of raga dveshas are not easy to eliminate, durnivara. In other words, they are difficult to get in hand. Verse 23. An extra effort is required to bring about an antidote for karma. Shaknoti haiva yaha, shaknoti haiva yashodum, praksharira vimokshanat, kama krododbhavam vegam, sayuktasya sukhi naraha.
Yaha, the one who prak sarira vimokshati, vimokshana, before release from the body, kama krodha udbhavam, born of anger and desire, vegam, the force, iha eva, here itself in this word, sodum, the master, sapnoti is able, saha, he or she, yukta is a karma yogi. Saha, he or she, Sukhinaraha, is a happy person. The one who is able to master the force born of anger and desire here in this world, before release from the body, is a karma yogi. He or she indeed is a happy person. Here Krishna is saying that you do not control kama and krodha, the desire and anger, rather you knock off the kama krodha udbhavam vegam, the force born of kama and krodha. First, you should know how to take care of vega, the force. Then you can take care of the desire, anger, and the pain that become the cause for that force. Behind every pain, there is an expectation, and unfulfilled expectation leads to anger, as we have seen. Kama and krodha have certain sting. By taking care of the force born of them, you remove the sting. So you have to pay attention to kama and krodha.
Yeah, basically which we have dealt with before also. Kama yashaha, krodha yashaha, like kama karshin, maniro karshin, namo namaha. And we were telling that. Since just by saying that because of kama I did this, because of krodha I did that, you distance yourself from kama and krodha. That is the first step. Once you distance yourself, you will be able to handle it. If I am a kami and I am an angry person, then we were totally identified. Then somebody else has to deal with you. Your anger. So the distance you maintain between kama and krodha, okay, I am happier, I am totally entangled with this activity, that I should be alert to. Then you can reduce that entanglement. In the same way, I am totally getting involved in this angry moment. Once I am aware of that, automatically you can withdraw. That awareness, that space between you, the person, and the kama or the krodha that is driving you into action, that space itself will help us to deal with it. That is the psychology part of it. Yeah, that's what he will be telling now. Yeah, you can read that.
The entire psychology of the Gita is in terms of ragas and dveshas, the management of your likes and dislikes. By managing likes and dislikes, a normal person can overcome any psychological problem that he or she may have. Such problems are natural. That you are angry is normal. That you have desires is normal. That you are subject to pain is also normal. This normal psychology is dealt with by the Gita in terms of likes and dislikes. Kama, desire, is a common word for raga and dvesha. Kama is purely a want. The thought process through which you desire an object and end is called kama. The desire can be either to gain something, raga, or to avoid something.
Raga. That means raga. Desire can be either to gain something raga or to avoid something dvesha.
Dvesha. To retain something gained or to get rid of something that you already have. Kama produces certain force and symptoms which are indicative of the virulence of desire. If these symptoms are not there, you would not know whether the kama is a binding desire or a non-binding desire. If one has a desire that is not fulfilled, one does not get upset in the process, then that desire is not a binding desire. We are not dealing with non-binding desires here. We are dealing only with those that produce vega, force. This vega is the outcome of desire and is something that indicates the virulence or the intensity of kama as well as krodha that results if the desire is not fulfilled. The vega described here by the expression kama krodha vibhavam vegam, the force that is released or born of kama and krodha, is the ultimate object to be mastered.
So that is what you have to look for. See, what he is giving us a clue. How to look for that whether your kama and krodha are manageable or not manageable. It brings in you a certain vegam, whether in terms of attachment or in terms of hatred. That vegam itself will tell you. That means I am too much dependent on this particular activity of kama or krodha. So then you have to get alerted. That vegam has to be brought down. That is called managing. So that we have a liking and disliking is initial stages. It is not something to be, you don't have to condemn yourself for that. Okay, I have certain likes and dislikes, that's fine. But that should not become, bring in a vega in you. In the sense, atram varakudadu and also too much of getting clinging to that shouldn't happen. That part of it you have to be careful about. Slowly we have to, as we grow up in life, we have to slowly withdraw that aspect of it. Then automatically the like will drop and dislike also will drop. You will be able to take the good and bad in the same spirit. Yeah, that's what he's trying to say. Managing. Yeah.
Another important expression used in this verse, is prak sartra vimokshana.
Satira vimokshana.
Yeah,
before we
Satira
Vimokshanat, he explains, that is before we leave this body, meaning before we get old, we are not in a position to handle all these things. We should not be waiting for such a period. Like what we say, no, Sahara Kalasana Sankara will not help. So much before, meaning as early as possible. Don't wait for retirement or don't wait for that. As long as you are healthy, try to handle these things, take charge of this situation. That's what he's trying to say. But the Shastra statement is Prak Sharira Vimokshanat. That is a statement by Bhagavan. Yeah.
Prak means before, Vimokshana means release, and Sarira is the physical body. Therefore, the expression means before release from the physical body. Before one dies away, then one is able to master Todum Saknoti, this force born of Kama and Krodha. Krishna mentions this for two reasons. The first one being that if a person is able to accomplish this before he or she dies, then the person is a mature human being, Nara. And because one is mature, having mastered one's mind, the person is happy, Saha Sukhi.
Nara, I have explained to you before also. We have to keep that in mind. Nariyate Nara. In the sense, a person who is eternal. That is the real meaning. So, once a person becomes a mature human being, Nara, he mentions. It just mentions that it goes away. But if you understand what is Nara means, for us to be Nara, we have to be really not getting associated with this anything fleeting. Fleeting meaning anything that comes and goes, we should not ourselves associate with that. Then only we can be Nara. Nara means what? Nariyate, that never gets lost. So whereas anything that we cling, anything in our life, whatever we have or we don't have, it comes and goes. So any affection or attachment towards any of those things will not make us qualified for the word Nara. Whereas here he uses the word Nara. So if we have to become Nara, a mature human being, that clinging to items that come and goes, that means almost everything in life. Everything in life comes and goes. So in none of those things we should have a real great affliction or attachment. That's what he's trying to say, as a mature human being. Yeah.
It seems to me that human life is divided into two activities. One is to gather all sorts of nonsense as a child, and the other is to learn how to manage them all. Somewhere along the way, you were able to realize that what you had gathered as a child has nothing to do with what you are now. Only the person who realizes this and then addresses the problems that arise can be called Nara. Until then, the person is still a child. Therefore, I would say that if a person is able to master the force born of desire and anger, he or she has made it as an adult human being. I would say that he is a Sukhi and also a Karma Yogi because to master the Vega of Kama Krodha requires certain attitude. Maturity also implies expressing your free will in its highest form, meaning that you can voluntarily appreciate and offer prayer. Prayer and a prayerful attitude are the expressions of a mature will. In fact, they are based on will alone. No one is driven to prayer. You are driven to swear, to cry, and to do varieties of things. But you can never be driven to prayer. Even if you pray in a moment of distress, this will is expressing in its highest form. In the act of prayer, you do not see the one to whom you pray. Ishvara is nowhere around. All you see are the contending forces that you have to deal with. Therefore, if in the process of living, a person is able to appreciate an Ishvara and offer a prayer to him, that person becomes a Karma Yogi. Without this, the Kama Krodha Udbhavam Vegam is not easy to master. This particular religious conversion, as it were, has to take place in the person, and what is implied here by the word Yukta, meaning yogi, and this Karma Yogi, this mature person who is able to master the force born of desire and anger, is a happy person, Sasukhi Naraha.
Yeah, in the sense, it's a beautiful, Swamiji always likes to tell this. It is Swamiji's uniqueness. He says, prayer is the, supreme expression of free will. In the sense, when you are in a difficult situation or in a good situation, you are able to bring in a force in your mind. Imagine, in the sense, visualize and pray. Okay, let all this happen. Like in our regular life, it is all happening. Like, let everything go well today. Good an occasion, we are going to start a good, very big exercise. Then you pray, saying that let it all go well, let all the forces be in favor of this act. And like that, bringing in the force, visualize them. They are not around, but you visualize them and then pray. That is a supreme expression of free will. In the sense, you are giving an expression of your space inside by calling to the force inside, like bringing in all the forces that are blessing that particular act, keep it in the heart, pray, and then start. So that is a very good way of expressing, keeping your free will free time and again through the day. That is precisely the idea of this, puja and other things, is to call a force by freedom. Listen, there's nobody is going to tell you that no Ishvara is going to complain that you have not called him or something. But in spite of that, you call and do some puja and then start an activity, or in a difficult situation, Bhavani, take care, like that. No, time and again we do. That itself is an expression of free will, he says. Unless you keep expressing that free will, that you have got free will, you may not know, because you will get carried away by situations, either jumping up or jumping down. So that sort of a life to avoid, you always be prayerful, time and again, good or bad, call the invoke a lot and pray and then start any activity. That itself is a very good act, very good expression of free will. That's what he always says. Yeah.
Can you explain this last paragraph, what I read?
Yeah. Yeah, you read. In the act of prayer, this is what you are talking about, no? In the act of prayer, you do not see the one to whom you pray. Ishvara is nowhere around. So, all you are seeing, the sense, you have got a situation, you have got either a positive situation, a puja, a big activity, a marriage or a good function, Or you have got a difficult situation, there is somebody hospitalized, you are going there and attending to him, or somebody is at home is not well, you are attending to him. Either way, he says, you bring in the forces. That is, imagine Ishvara, who is the order, and pray to him. Let whatever I do, let it be helpful to the situation, whether it is a good thing, or when we do the sankalpa also, we pray. Mama Pata Samasta Durjakshayatvala Sri Parameshwara Prityartam. Like that we say. In the sense, we avoid all the wrong things and do the right things. Parameshwara Prityartam meaning I am doing this not to just to take care of this current situation. It is in the order, it is Ishvara's will, that whether it's a good situation or a bad situation, it is in the Ishvara's order. I am praying to him, and in order to do what is right by Ishvara, as a representative of Ishvara, I am doing this situation. That is the free will to the expression of free will of the highest order. In the sense, the freedom inside, the space between you, the person, and the situation, you are invoking by way of Ishvara. Since you are there, the situation is there. If that sort of invoking is not happening, you will get totally enmeshed with the situation. So you will get carried away. Either you will jump up or jump down. So you will not be free enough to do what is appropriate to the given situation. That is the practical aspect of it. The other aspect of it is, in terms of reality also, they are all given situations, and they are all the product, and they are all going to fructify depending on the so many forces that are acting upon it. Even though it looks like you are dealing with it, it is you got a limited faculty, limited capability, whatever it is, and the situation that is panning out is because of the result of so many things. You are not calling all the shots. That at the time, if you don't pray, if you don't give that filter of prayer and surrender to the Lord, you may get totally enmeshed with a situation where you won't be able to act appropriately. So that is the free will which he is talking about. He says, you invoke that force, that Ishvara is the person who is taking care of the order, who is helping me to do whatever I need to do in the situation. So you sort of a final arbiter of all situations. You bring in and pray and then do the activity. That itself, that creates that space inside, so that you will not get totally enmeshed with that. The desire will not become a binding desire. That is the difference between a desire and a binding desire. Binding desire means it incapacitates you. It doesn't allow you to act properly, because you are so much anxious about the situation, because you are totally binding. Whereas if you invoke the space in between by way of Ishvara, by prayer, then you will be able to act appropriately, and that will be in order also, because that is a fact of life also. Whatever situation that is obtaining, you are not calling all the shots. You have got certain capabilities. You can do only that much to play your part in that situation. Nimitta matram bhava sarvyasachi. In the sense, you can only you are not calling all the shots. That and the awareness only when you pray. Prayer is in the sense, because it is part of our culture, Swamiji is able to freely tell that, Ishvara. But whereas in other culture where there is no prayer is involved, even other culture, even our own, there are a lot of people who are Nastikas and all that, they will not have that cushion. So in that case, they have to say nature. They have to say nature, order, whatever you call it, totality, let the total take care, let we do what is proper. Like that sort of a prayer he has to do. But anyway, you have to pray. And Ishvara is easily part of our culture. So he says, you bring in the Ishvara, pray, and then do. That we anyway do. But that we should be conscious about. It should not be again mechanical. Listen, you must be able to bring in that intent. When you do that sankalpa, when you bring in Ishvara, you must really be prayerful. You are calling the forces and handing over the situation to all the forces and do whatever you can. So that bhavana is important. That will come later also. Madbhavam asritaha. Even for a jnani, he says, Madbhavam, for you to not to slip. In the second chapter, I think he has already told one of the 2.56 or something. Even for a jnani, Madbhavam asritaha. Always be prayerful. Then only you can be able to appreciate the whole thing properly. So that here also he is saying for a yogi also, you ensure that you are prayerful in all your activities so that Kama Krodha Udbhavam Begam it doesn't catch you by the sense you are not surprised by the Udbhavam and Begam, and you are able to master that. That is what he is trying to say in this whole para.
Stop here.
Yeah, stop here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Karma Yoga and knowledge. Reflect on that tomorrow. Yeah. Tomorrow 3:30, right? You said.
Tomorrow, 3:30.
Okay. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari